And in the Impact segment tonight, Health and Human Services Secretary Kathleen Sebelius testified for hours today in front of the House Energy and Commerce Committee. It was intense.
Who was in charge as it was being built?
Was in charge up till...
At that team, who is the individual?
Michelle Snyder is the...
Michelle Snyder is the one responsible for this debacle.
Well, excuse me, Congresswoman, Michelle Snyder is not responsible for the debacle. Hold me accountable for the debacle.
Okay.
I'm responsible.
Well, Madam Secretary, while you're from Kansas, we're not in Kansas anymore. Some might say that we are actually in the Wizard of Oz land, given the parallel universes we appear to be habitating.
Why aren't you in the exchange? You're in charge of this law, correct? Why aren't you in the exchange?
Because I'm part of the Federal Employee Health Benefits
Why aren't you in the exchange? Why won't you go into the exchange? You're a part of this law. You're literally in charge of this law. Should you be any different than all of the other Americans out there who are losing their health insurance today?
I'm part of the 95% with affordable, available health coverage.
And joining us now from Washington is Congresswoman Marsha Blackburn. So, first of all, your overall assessment of Secretary Sebelius. Is she incompetent? Is she, a person who has no clue? What?
I think that what we saw was a very defensive Secretary Sebelius. And, you know, Bill, there's an old thing that you manage assets and you lead people. I think she lacks, and the president lacks, that key component of the ability to lead people. She didn't even know who was specifically in charge of spending all this money and hundreds of millions of dollars of taxpayer money.
Okay. So she wasn't a micromanager on the rollout of Obamacare, which was her big thing. I mean, that's what the secretary is in charge of doing. She came across today, in my opinion, as not doddering. She was kind of defiant, and she had some authority. She's the former governor of Kansas. But I'm trying to find the seam here. At one point, one of the questions was, well, isn't President Obama responsible? You know, you're his agent, but isn't he ultimately responsible? And she said yes. I thought that was a fairly gutsy answer.
Well, indeed it was. And then what we were a little bit confused about was there didn't seem to be a consistency of how they briefed the president and kept him informed as to how this was progressing. And indeed, we have been conducting oversight since March of 2011. They knew we were asking these questions. This was like our 12th or 13th hearing that we have done on the president's health care law and its rollout.
Okay, but if that's true, and you had been providing oversight for 2 years running up, why didn't you come on the factor and tell us this thing's going to be a disaster?
We have been doing our best to get the message out that we had serious concerns about this. What we also were very concerned about was the fact that when we had all of the contractors in front of us just in September, what they were saying was, yes, indeed, we think we're going to have this ready. HHS had a group of people. We never could really figure out who was in charge, and as you saw today, that still seems to be something that's elusive.
That nobody was in charge because it just collapsed.
Right.
Now, so we're talking about incompetence here. This is what I'm getting.
Yes.
They're incompetent. They can't run it. Is that fair?
That is fair. The incompetence on every level is absolutely staggering, whether it is the financial management or the rollout, the technology.
You've been in Washington for quite some time. You know that presidents, they're not paying attention to day on much. They're running here, they're running there, they're raising money every 2 minutes. They're on a golf course. You know, they're all over the place. How much responsibility do you put at President Obama's doorstep, number one, and do you believe as an American, not just a congressperson, that he lied to you?
There are a couple of things. And number one, I think the president does bear part of this responsibility. He should have known what questions to ask the secretary and how she was holding her team accountable. The president's health care law is his signature piece of legislation.
So he didn't do his job, in your opinion?
That is correct. He did not provide the oversight and the leadership necessary there. Now, when it comes to if you like your plan, you can keep it, I've got to tell you, Bill, that is proving to be a falsehood. We're hearing from hundreds of thousands of Americans.
I don't think there's any doubt about
in
that.
Tennessee.
So the question then becomes, did he lie to you? Do you believe, as an American now, not a member of Congress, that he looked in the camera and lied to Marsha Blackburn? Do you believe that?
I think that the president, maybe he was not informed by his staff that what he was saying was incorrect, but I would have thought his staff would have said, hey, Mr. President, listen, we've got some information that says that is not correct. You might want to stop saying that because it doesn't look like it's going to be true.
Okay, so you're not ready to call the President of the United States a liar at this point?
I think that we need to figure out who. If he knew it, there are bigger problems, because then he was out there saying in September.
If he knew it, he's got major problems, and you guys might be in an impeachment situation. But right now, the evidence is that we don't have any evidence to tie him directly to that kind of high crime and misdemeanor, as they say.
And one of the things that was brought out today by one of our members was, look, could you please tell the president that he shouldn't be saying this because it is just not proving to be true. We have too many people.
I don't think you're going to hear him say it again, but I could be wrong.
I don't think so either. No. I think you're right about that.
All right, Congressman, we appreciate your time on a busy day. Directly ahead is White House spokesman Jay Carney hurting the country. Dana Perino, former White House press secretary herself, will weigh in. Then Dennis Miller on how liberals are evaluating the president's current problems. We're coming right back.